Tony Blair, welcome to Davos. You're a familiar face here. You're a veteran, so to speak. What is your main challenge, or let's see, what are the main topics of this year's WEF?
I mean, for me and the institute I have, we do a lot of work in Africa, in some of the developing countries, a lot of work in the Middle East. So for me, it's a question of, this is a great networking opportunity to see many of the presidents we work with and the key players in the regions in the world we work with. But I think at a bigger level, it's people are discussing the global economy, Brexit, the usual topics. But the thing about Davos is, look, it gets a lot of criticism, but if you want to see people, this is a good place to come and see them.
Being so involved in your international initiatives as well, how do you rate the state of the world at the moment?
If you take a step back and take a long-term perspective, the world's getting better, right? All the time, actually. If you look at the rates of deaths, for example, in Africa, where we work from killer diseases, they're all down. If you look at the numbers of people we lifted out of poverty globally over the last 3 decades, they're all up. Okay. So in one way, the world's getting better, but at the moment, it's got a big crisis of confidence in the West, at the same time as arising in other parts of the world, a system of government that's not merely not democratic, but proud of not being democratic. So, this is a challenging time, I think, for those of us who believe in values of liberal democracy and freedom.
Speaking of those challenges, in almost every survey that people are doing up here, there's always the trade tensions between the US and China. There's, not surprisingly for you, I guess, the Brexit. And there's the economic instability at the moment, the insecurity as well. Which one would you rate the most alarming, the most challenging at the moment?
I think the most challenging is if people start to turn their backs on globalization. Because globalization is a force driven, in my view, ultimately by people. It has actually brought enormous benefits to the world. I mean, if you look at China, why has China risen so much and done so well economically? Because it opened up. If you look at India, why has India got potential? Because it's reforming. If you look at Eastern Europe, why has Eastern Europe done better? Because it's come into the European Union. So we see examples, if you really analyze it, of where globalization is important. But we have to deal with the fact that for a lot of people, particularly in the West right now, they feel negative towards it. They feel it's threatening their identity. They feel immigration is out of control and people worry that their communities are being changed. And so the thing that I think people have got to concentrate on is, how do you deal with the anxieties that people have about globalization whilst retaining its obvious and clear benefits?
One big anxiety in your country, but also in Europe, is the Brexit. We cannot not speak about the Brexit. Judging it from here, I would say it's a huge mess. Would you agree?
I think everyone agrees it's a mess. The question is, how do we get out of it? I believe the only way of getting out of it is to go back to the people again. Because
a second vote.
Yeah, because what's happened is Parliament's blocked. I don't think it's going to come to an agreement on a particular version of Brexit, and there are many different versions with very different consequences. And the truth of the matter is, we know far more about this process now than we did, back 30 months ago. So I think there is a real prospect now that we go back to the people. I think if that happens, my strong plea to Europe would be, recognize that the British anxieties that gave rise to Brexit are European-wide. These are not just British problems. They're European-wide problems, and the sensible thing would be, if Britain thought again, Europe should also think again.
Should a second referendum not be on the table? We're heading for a hard Brexit on the 29th of March. What would that mean? What would that mean for the UK? What would that mean for Europe?
I mean, a no-deal Brexit, which is different from a hard Brexit, would be a very bad thing. But by the way, the chances of that are very, very small, because there is an overwhelming majority in the British Parliament against it. So when people talk about a no-deal Brexit, Britain just tumbles out and trades on WTO rules or something, this is not going to happen. If we ever got to that stage, Britain would be asking for an extension of time for the process of Brexit in order to come to a different view about Brexit, or to do a version of Brexit.
Do you see a possibility that Switzerland and the UK could work together more closely, since we seem to have the same issues with the European Union?
Yeah, look, I mean, Britain and Switzerland have got a good relationship. We've got very strong ties. But I do think we have a different history in relation to Europe. And, you know, Britain has always been a country, this is one of the things I'm not sure my country fully understands. Britain has been involved for centuries in the history of Europe, in creating the history of Europe. So for us to stand apart from the European Union, I think is a much more dramatic change of our status than, frankly, for Switzerland. But, you know, if Brexit happens, I'm sure we'll work closely together.
One final question. A lot of British prime ministers have almost despaired over this European question. Do you think Theresa May might be the one in the line, the last one in the line, kind of breaking up because of Europe?
I hope not, but it's really important to realize that this European drama has principally been a drama on the right of British politics within the Conservative Party. And it's gone on for 3 decades or more. And frankly, you know, it's time we brought it to a stop. So that's why I think if we do have another referendum, I think at that point, the country will say, right, we're going to have this debate, we're going to have it one last time. If we leave, that's it, we'll make a different future for ourselves. And by the way, if we vote to leave again, my view is that's it. But I hope that we won't do that and we vote to stay and we put this argument behind us, because in the 21st century for a country like Britain, we cannot afford to be locked out of the main political union and our biggest commercial market that sits right at our doorstep.
John Blair, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.